Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Just Kira Davis. I am your host, Kira Davis. I'm Just Kira Davis talking about America. And it's episode 3 of the new podcast. You might remember my old podcast, Just Listen to Yourself, still available in the archives over at the FCB radio network. And if you're not subscribed to this new podcast, you could do that on Spotify, Apple iTunes, YouTube, and of course, Substack. And you should definitely subscribe to my Substack because I've got bonus content over there, including the new unsolicited advice column, which is available exclusively on Substack for our premium subscribers. So you'll want to go over there. And then, of course, you don't want to miss my new Christmas podcast that's out with my good friend Amelia Hamilton, where we review cheesy Christmas TV movies all season long. It's called A Journey to Christmas Land with Kira and Amelia. You can find that on Substack, YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes. A Journey to Christmas Land. We just did a Biltmore Christmas, which was fan-flippin-tastic. So much fun. And we have done this podcast off and on for years. We've never been really serious about it, but lately we've gotten more serious, which is funny to say because things are so serious. We enjoy the getaway and it's fun. We have fun. We do poke fun at these movies, but we really like them. We really appreciate them. So if you want to have a good time and sort of check out from the madness, check out that A Journey to Christmas Land. It's JT Christmas Land on Instagram and X, and Journey to Christmas Land on Substack. Okay, today we've got some stuff. I'm getting this podcast and I'm going to Iowa tomorrow, everybody. I'm going to be in Iowa for Halloween. I'm super excited. I'm going to go see my friend Wendy, and she is the Halloween queen. So I am really pumped to be at her house, especially this year. I don't have any kids at home really for Halloween. I have an adult son. He's lurking around, but that's all he does is lurk around. So it'll be fun to go and celebrate with a real Halloweenophile, if you will. But let's get to some serious business before I leave California for saner shores. There's a lot going on. I think the only thing really that is really on people's mind right now is this New York City mayoral election. Here in California, we've got Prop 50. That's coming up next week. That ballot that's the gerrymandering measure. And right now, the no side, that's my side, no on Prop 50, that's losing. A lot of Republicans don't like the early mail-in ballots, so they hold their vote to the last day. Now, the official party line here in California is go get your ballot in early. There's a reason for that. It's because it helps the party direct their resources, right? If they can look on the return ballots, they can't see how you voted, but they can see that X amount of Republicans voted. They're probably voting no, so we can focus on other areas. I get that. But I think Republicans, especially in California, are so we're just so burned by the mail-in ballot process. I mean, everybody should be really after 2020, but here in California, it's been especially egregious, and we don't want to do it. So, in-person voting opened this week, so we're hoping that a lot of those Republican voters are not going to just stay home, but they're going to come to vote in person. It is true that there's a huge depressed Republican vote in here in California, and it's really hard to get those people motivated. They feel like their votes don't count, and you know what? They're not always wrong. We've got a chance to flip it next year in 2026. There's 2 major Republican candidates in this race. Chad Bianco is the sheriff from Riverside, and Steve Hilton, whom you may know from Fox News. A lot of you know me from Steve's show. Steve's show was one of the first regular appearances I had on Fox News. He used to do it out of LA, and that's where we first met. That's where I first met Charlie, actually, on Steve's show. We used to be regular guests together back in the early days. So, for my money, Steve's got it. I think Steve is the best candidate. I should say that. For my money, I think he's the best candidate. I think he has a a broad appeal. Bianco is very strong on law and order, and he seems like a good man. A lot of my my Maha activist friends really love Bianco. If Steve wasn't in this race, I most definitely would be Team Bianco. But I think Steve splits the difference from a seasoned, uh, between a seasoned politician and a communicator. He worked in the Cameron government in the UK, so he's got that going for him. But there's other things going on here that I think maybe I should tell you about before I move on to this Mamdani thing, because I actually think this is all related. But there's some things going on here in California. I know a lot of you are looking at us and going, "It's impossible. You'll never beat the cheating. It's going to be hard to beat the cheating." I'm not going to lie about that. But we saw what happens when you put a concerted effort into motivating your base and winning new voters in 2024, right? We have to make it too big to rig. I don't want to be naive about it, and I don't think anyone's being naive about it here. It has to be too big to rig. We get that. The entire Republican base is going to have to come out, and Hilton is going to have to go get some of those disaffected voters. The good news is there's a lot of them here in California, and they are extremely disaffected. And we are headed towards $7 a gallon gas by Christmas here in California. The rest of you, your gas prices are going down. It's going up here. We're at over 5 right now. I think I paid 5.13 the other day. I haven't filled up since. So people are very disaffected. I know that the rest of the country has moved on from the Los Angeles fires, but the Pacific Palisades haven't. Those affected by the Eden fire haven't. We really haven't. We're still dealing with the fallout. Nothing's getting built. All of the greedy developers are coming in. Newsom's making all kinds of deals on the back end. It's insane here, and people are still seeing it, and still feeling it. And now Karen Bass has given illegal migrants access to free legal services, free residency, or free homes, free housing, and welfare benefits, even as residents in Los Angeles take to the streets to march partially against the cost of living here in California. Now, a lot of those people blame Republicans or blame Trump, but that's on the minds of everyone. The cost of living, people are seeing this, is what I'm saying. Don't think that people in California aren't seeing it just because the news isn't reporting it. That's what I'm saying. So it's got to be too big to rig, which I think can happen. We have to purge the voter rolls, which is already happening. There are major voter roll purges happening in counties across the state. And that's going to continue. I think we're up over 100,000. I honestly think about half our voters here are probably illegally registered, but it's a start. And in some races that are won by, a dozen or more votes, in that sort of small number, yeah, it really can make a difference. The DOJ is going to have to come in and do some prosecutions. They're going to have to prosecute the voter fraud here. DOJ is here. They're here. They're parked in Orange County, which is where I live. They're parked here right now. But they have plans for other parts of the state, and I believe they have already subpoenaed the voter rolls here in Orange County. And I think our Secretary of State, Shirley Weber, should be very nervous. Because Shirley, I get your updates every day. I'm signed up for the Secretary of State updates. I see what you guys are doing. I know when you're testing the voting machines. I know when you're running the reports. Most people don't sign up for that stuff, but I do. So I do, and I, take notes of patterns and go find the non-existent reports. I go look for the non-existent reports out there. But I think our Secretary of State should be very nervous. And then there is the Gavin factor. Gavin's going to run for president. He's clearly floating that. We're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about his friend Kamala. He's clearly floating it. But we've known for a while. I mean, he really hasn't been running the state for the last year. He's really been campaigning. He's even been in South Carolina when things are burning down here and falling down around our ears. And the governor is nowhere to be found, but he's running for president. And here's the thing, when he is released from the burden of having to lead the people of California, He's going to go whole hog into that presidential race. But guess what? America is not going to like him because people don't like Gavin. He looks super fake. He seems super fake. He acts super fake. And you can read it. You can smell it. It's just oozing from him. And it used to work when we were more in the Obama era, right? More in the mood for diplomats, more in the mood to be tricked. We really believed those silver-tongued politicians. And that's who Gavin was. He's a product of Pelosi. Really, he is her protege. And so he has mastered the art of saying one thing and doing another, which is what the Democrats do, but that doesn't fly anymore. Kamala Harris lost everything being the fakest politician this side of Mars. She lost everything because really by the time we got through with Biden's weirdness and everything else, by the time we got to her, Americans were just completely sick of fake. The kids don't like it. The kids see all their media on TikTok and Instagram, and that looks authentic to them because it's right, it's close, it's intimate. Even if what they're seeing isn't totally authentic, you know what I mean? It has an authentic brand. It has an authentic feel. I believe Democrats will figure it out eventually, but hopefully it won't be for another 10 or 20 years. But Gavin has not figured it out, and he can't. Here's the other thing, he can't. He can't pivot. He's a product of his environment. He's a product of his era. And they thought that era was going to last them for the next 100 years. They really did. They thought it was a winner and it was never going away, but it's gone now and they can't pivot. That's why they're so crazy. That's why we're seeing them do all this stuff. They can't pivot. They don't know what to do. The only thing they can do is double down. The only thing they can do is dig in harder. So Gavin is not intelligent enough or savvy enough or clever enough to pivot. He tried, right? When he started his podcast, he brought on Charlie and it gave him a little bump, but that was a Charlie bump. We all know that. That wasn't a Gavin bump. He tried, but he can't do it. He's basically a robot. So yes, he's slick and he looks slick, but he's like Kamala. You let him talk for 10 minutes and there's no there and everybody sees it. So he's going to go to the national scene and everybody's going to go, what? He's going to be a national advertisement for our state gubernatorial race. He's not running. He'll be running for president. Right now, the leading Democrat is poor old Katie Porter. Poor little Katie. Breaking news yesterday. Well, she's now polling behind Steve Hilton. Steve is pulled ahead of Katie Porter in the polls. She had that disastrous interview recently. And that's made a lot of waves for her. She's not well liked anyway, but the Democrat race is nowhere near decided, people. There's still other people to get in the race. I think Jose Padilla, you might remember him. You might know him as Alex Padilla. That's his Christian name. That's his given name. But his government name is Jose Padilla. That's the name Trump gave him. He's probably going to get in. And I think the Democrats are going to get behind him. So then that's going to create a whole other list of things. All this to say, let me just bring it back. There's a lot that has to happen here, but there's a lot that is happening. And we're going to have Gavin Newsom as a walking advertisement for everything that is wrong with California politics and Democrat politics in particular. Does this mean that the whole entire legislature will flip? I doubt it, particularly if they manage to gerrymander the last of the few Republican seats here. But as Steve says, when he's on the campaign trail, he doesn't need the legislature to flip right away in order to make change right away. I'm sure it's not hard for you to imagine that California has oodles of commissions that make all the laws, and they're just appointed positions, and really they're just prestige positions, but they do affect laws and policies and how things are applied. Those are governor appointments. Those are appointments from the governor. So he can reappoint all of those commissions and plug in the people that he trusts and knows and believes in. My dog has found her way up here. You have something to say about Steve Hilton? No, okay, she's not. She's not. Although she's not voting for Steve Hilton. If she could vote, she would. But there is a dog that did vote here in Orange County. That case is being prosecuted right now. A woman registered her dog to vote, and the dog did vote. So I guess I could do it if I were that kind of person. But I'm not a Democrat. Apparently, she isn't either, actually. She's a registered Republican. You may have heard the story on Fox News. She's actually a registered Republican. I think she was trying to make a point. I appreciate the vigor, but yeah, that's a very dangerous point to make. Voter fraud is very serious, and if she were in LA County, maybe it wouldn't make a difference. But in Orange County, she is getting prosecuted. I talked to our Republican prosecutor. I talked to our AG, Todd Spitzer. He's been a great prosecutor for Orange County, and he said, "Yeah, we're prosecuting it. It's voter fraud." It's voter fraud. It's very serious. We take it seriously. All right. I want to get to Mamdani here because that's what is on everyone's mind. Mamdani running in New York City. The mayoral election is coming up. Curtis Sliwa isn't dropping out. Cuomo's making a little bit of a surge. Is it a Cuomo surge, or are people just getting more and more scared of Mamdani? I don't know, but this whole race is a fascinating microcosm of where we are in the American era, in the American story. It truly, truly is. Mamdani is a fake. He's a communist and an Islamist. That's worse than a communist. He's an Islamist. He's a Muslim. I hate saying the word Islamist because it sort of separates it from Muslim. But I think if you're a Muslim, you're a Muslim, and that's that. And a tenet of the religion is a lot of the things a guy like Mamdani believes, but an Islamist, I suppose, would apply it politically in a place like America. So in that respect, it does matter. It does matter. I want to play this. You've probably seen it by now. I want to play this clip from Mamdani. This is him talking about his poor, poor auntie. His poor, poor auntie. His poor, poor Muslim auntie. Who suffered all kinds of racism and bigotry after 9/11 as she tried to enter the subway. Let's play Zoran Mamdani. It's very emotional here, everybody. It's extremely traumatizing for the little rich boy.
I want to use this moment to speak to the Muslims of New York City. I want to speak to the memory of my aunt. Who stopped taking the subway after September 11th because she did not feel safe in her hijab.
I heard Zoran Mamdani. He was weeping. He was weeping about his aunt and how terrible it was for her after 9/11, getting up the subway in her hijab. Now, I think ultimately it turns out this story is fake. I don't think that his aunt ever wore a hijab nor had any experiences with a post 9/11 New York City subway, I think. But he's selling the story, and he was weeping, and he's surrounded by women in hijabs and Muslims, and talking about how Muslims have not been appreciated in New York City. And if that doesn't give you a chill, this is not just about a socialist. We're talking about this in terms of socialism, and I don't think I think that is a mistake. It is much deeper than that. It is much more dire than that. And I think it's because a lot of the people talking about this weren't really aware and plugged in, like maybe just not old enough on 9/11 to remember what happened in the wake of that event. But I remember, I still feel like it was yesterday. And it's the whole reason I got into politics, and everything that has happened in terms of immigration and national security. Every problem that we have right now is related to how we reacted to 9/11. Everything is. Mamdani is a result of 9/11. Do you understand? Because what happened after 9/11, I know for those of you who weren't around, a lot of y'all will hear folks my age say, It was one of the few times everyone was really united after 9/11. Well, that's a naive lie. It's a naive sort of retelling of the time. Yes, for about a week, we were solidly in each other's camps. Like, let's get the terrorists. We're pissed off. This is terrible. For about a week. But immediately after that, it was, well, what did we do to deserve it? This is what happens when you're a colonial entity. And you know what the Bush administration, not a Democrat administration, the Bush administration, George Bush, who was very good on the rhetoric after the attack and very good at leading Americans in our grief and our need for resolution. He was very good on that front. But he opened the floodgates for Muslim immigration because we had to prove to the world that we weren't racist. Does anyone remember him going on national TV? He's the one who gave us the religion of peace. That's George Bush. You remember that? He went on TV because people were going, you know what? Islam's a problem. Like, we're living peacefully here. We're not bothering anybody. We're people just got up and went to work that morning. Now we find out that there's an intifada, something called an intifada, and the great Satan. And these people can actually come to our shores and murder thousands of our own citizens. Yeah, maybe Islam is a problem. It doesn't seem to have the same calming effect that, say, Christianity does in a area like America. And people were starting to think maybe we shouldn't, we should maybe take some precautions against this ideology, this religion, which is an ideology. And the response was to open the floodgates for anyone and everyone from Muslim countries to prove that we weren't racist. And then when Obama came, that just went into overdrive. That's how you got what's happening in Minneapolis. That was Obama. He shipped in tens of thousands of Somalians, Muslim Somalians. That was to prove we weren't racist and Islamophobes. New York City, there's a mosque. There's a mosque near the site. The authorities let the Muslims put a flag. They let them plant a flag on ground zero. And New York City welcomed in the Muslim community. Dearborn is a result of 9/11. That mosque, that Sharia law town that they're trying to put up in Texas, wherever, that's a direct result of 9/11. So this Muslim communist and anti-Semite poised to take over the greatest city in our nation, but not only that, the city that bears the scars of Islamic terrorism, poised to take over. It's more than just a communist taking over. It's more than that. This guy is a Muslim. He's a walking flag. He's a flag. And he's planting it. They're planting it. Do you understand? This is what they do. This is what they do. They're doing it in the UK. And it's what they do. It's what they do on every site that they think is a victorious site. You see them? Do you see them praying in front of chapels and cathedrals in the UK? Do you think they're doing it as some kind of show of interfaith congeniality? No. They're planting a flag. Why doesn't everyone see this? Why aren't we talking about this? Why aren't we screaming about this? It's not socialism. It's not even communism, which we could deal with. This is Islamism. This is Islam. And it's a danger. And it's dangerous that he is about to run New York City. And next year's the 25th anniversary of 9/11. You guys, this is trouble, and it's a lot more trouble than just a communist in New York City. And this is a sign. This is a gift from George Bush and Barack Obama, who, suddenly are best friends now in 2025. They're best friends. That's not for nothing. That's not an accident. It's not an accident that George Bush, the Republican president, gave us Islamic immigration, and then Barack Obama continued it. And now we're dealing with this. A Republican president and a Democrat president. That's what makes the era of MAGA so amazing. It's not about left or right. That's how Trump won. It's not about left or right. It's about America. It's just people are sick of this stuff. I'm trying not to cuss. People are sick of it. They see that it doesn't matter what the letter is behind the name, that there are greediness is everywhere. Corruption is everywhere. The swamp extends far beyond that letter that you put behind your name as a politician. And they're sick of it. And they're sick of the inauthenticity. You saw that clip of Mamdani pretending to cry about his aunt's fake persecution in the New York City subways. No energy for the woman that got set on fire by a homeless person on the New York City subways. No energy for that. We're supposed to cry about his poor Muslim auntie 25 years ago, maybe getting some dirty looks on the subway, which is not true anyway. I don't think it's true anyway. There's a lot of people out there debunking this today. It's just a story that he tells because they're liars. They're all liars. And when he speaks, you can see. Now, here is the problem. That might not be enough for the electorate that is left in New York City. Right? We know that it's not the rank and file. It's not the union, police officers, or those people who want to vote for Mamdani, but do they live within city limits? So it's these socialist, wealthy, upper class awfuls, no matter what gender they are or race. It's those people who are probably going to give New York City Mamdani. And so it's a victory, but not a victory, right? This is going to open up a really interesting time if he runs. And by the way, I know there's a discussion about Curtis Sliwa. Should he get in? Should he get out? Look, I think Curtis Sliwa is a problem. I think for New York City, he seems like a good man with good intentions and could probably do a good job running New York, I think, better than what they've had. But he's been running forever. And it's like, okay, at a certain point, are Republicans going to get serious about New York City? This is much their problem. It's as much their problem as it is the problem of the Democrats. We have the same problem here in California. Republicans have abandoned us and felt that we're not worth fighting for. It's not worth wasting resources here. But this is the genius of Trump and the genius of MAGA. Trump going, no, there's no vote that's too far away for me to go get. They're all valuable because they're all Americans. And I think it's kind of pathetic that Republicans have allowed Democrats to chase us out of these very important cities. And now we're facing a Democrat mayor. It's just as much a Republican problem as it is a Democrat problem. Again, no slight to Curtis Sliwa, who I don't think should drop out. No, he should not. I mean, he's in this race. I'm not saying anything about what he's doing in this race. He's here now. I'm just saying that if we had a functioning, healthy Republican Party in New York State and New York City, he would have long been set aside for a more viable candidate. And they would at least have been developing a bench. Why are Republicans so willing to let these places go uncontested? I think one reason is in a lot of places, Republicans are in on it. They're part of the problem. They're part of it. Again, going back to me saying that these kids are sick of inauthenticity, and a lot of people are realizing that the politics is not about the deal or the arc. You can get sold out by a Republican the same way you can get sold out by a Democrat. People want leaders who are sincere, or at least seem sincere, and at least hold the same ambitions as you do as a voter. Trump wants to get richer, you want to get richer, right? Trump wants to be safer, you want to be safer. Trump wants smarter kids in America, you want your kids to be smarter, right? You want to pick a politician that at least has the same self-interest as you. And that's where we're going. So this left-right dynamic, it doesn't necessarily apply anymore. But the Mamdani situation, what it says, and I know this is not an original thought, but nevertheless, let me get my voice out there on this issue. The Mamdani situation is a turning point for the Democrat Party. And you will notice that Republicans, when they're talking about this government shutdown, which we're still in it as I record, when we're talking about this government shutdown, Republicans, they're getting it. They're very on brand with the messaging. They've got a great communicator as their leader, right? And Trump knows branding. Every time they talk about this shutdown, they talk about AOC, Bernie, and Mamdani as the new leaders of the Democrat Party. And they're doing that, A, because it's true, but B, because they know that's a problem for the Democrats. Now, it is scary. We are a two-party system, everyone, and I don't care how happy you think you would be if we just completely eliminated Democrats. That's not going to work in a two-party system. It's going to create a vacuum, and something will fill the vacuum. And maybe something we don't really want to see will fill that vacuum. So, don't be too keen for that. I don't think we want the Democrats gone, but what we do want is an opposition party that is sane, right? In order to be the opposition, you have to oppose some ideas. And they're not opposing any ideas. They're just opposing. They're just opposites. And and because they have a leadership vacuum, and because they have an ethical vacuum, the only thing that can fill it right now is the socialist wing, the communist wing of their party, the lunatic wing. They're the only people that have energy. And so they're the people who have taken over. Think about what happened on the right side of the party. We had the elitists and we had sort of the Tea Party wing, and that was the energy base for a while, but that dissipated, or I wouldn't say dissipated, I would say it got absorbed into the larger body politic of conservative politics. But when MAGA came along, that was the energy, right? That's where the energy was. That's where the momentum was. That's where the parties were and the fireworks and the rallies. Like, the energy was there. And the energy on the Democrat side is with the socialists. Those are the people going out and getting into the rallies and making the signs and hitting the streets. It's them, right? So Republicans are right to point to them as their leaders, not just because it's true, but because it's putting a dent in Democrats. They're in trouble. We don't want them to be the party of crazies. We do need them to have some semblance of sanity, because they are the second of our two-party system. If we don't have them, then we need a reasonable party to replace them, which I actually think is an option. I think that we could see something like that, something like the Reform Party that is rising up in the UK right now to replace the Conservative Party over there, which is completely sold out. It's not conservative enough, so the Reform Party is I mean, they're the future of UK for sure, unless the UK becomes a complete communist state and just arrests them all, which is still in the realm of possibility over there. Sad to say. So there could be a Democrat version of that, maybe, that comes up. But in the meantime, we need them to be sane. So I don't like that the socialists are taking over their wing. I don't like what it means for the future. However, I like what it means for the midterms. And I don't think it's a good thing for them. Yes, there's a lot of energy there. And yes, we should be concerned with that. But I don't think that we should be overly concerned. It's ridiculous. There's not enough of them to win elections across the U.S. yet. And that's why this is what I want to say. This is why what happened last November is so important. It's probably the most important event of our nation's history. I'm not trying to be hyperbolic. We are going to know, but it's going to be a very long time, and might not even be alive. It's going to be a very long time before we understand what we escaped last November. And these people were ready to put the final death knell on this, and Trump knows it. So he is working fast and furiously to right the wrongs, not just to reverse some stuff, but then to set up a foundation from which we can move ahead in a healthy and productive and progressive way. I don't mean progressive politically, but in a way that actually makes gains for America and American citizens. That's why it is important that he's, slicing the workforce and and resetting some of these policies, and even, getting rid of the Department of Education and the border, and even changing the name of the Department of Defense to the Department of War. Even that, changing the Gulf to the Gulf of America, even that. He's resetting the culture, appointing a Hollywood czar, making sure that the Kennedy Center is open and available to all people and making that bigger and brighter, possibly even renaming it. I think they should rename it. I think it should be the Trump Center. I think it should be. I do. Even renaming, but do you understand? It's not just that he is just righting some wrongs. He's resetting the culture for us so that when he's dead and gone, we can still work with some of this stuff. And we don't have to worry about the Democrats coming back and wreaking havoc. We'll have peeled out all of this red tape and gunk and goo. It's a holistic approach. There's nothing that Trump is doing right now that you should be looking at and saying to yourself, why is he doing that when he could be doing this? He shouldn't be dealing with drug boats in Venezuela. What about their due process? If I have to hear one more person ask me about the due process of a drug dealer speeding fentanyl to the shores of this country to murder my children, whom I warn every day about fentanyl, every single day, which they don't appreciate. If you think, if I hear one more person scream about their due process, drug dealers in the middle of the ocean don't get due process. This is a war. This is what you don't understand. Trump is setting up the future. We need the people that fentanyl is coming to kill. We need them. We need them in our military. We need them paying our taxes. We need them raising our next generation. We need those people. And those entities are sending that fentanyl onto our shores to kill us. What is fentanyl? Fentanyl is not cocaine. It's not heroin. It's not some highly addictive substance that, you do for 20 years, 15 years, and maybe you OD one day or you ruin your life, which is bad enough. But fentanyl kills instantly in many cases. Not all, by the way. You can cut it into drugs, from what I understand, to spread out the drugs. But some fentanyl is just sold, and it can kill instantly. Nearby here, I think in Huntington Beach, there's a party. 4 girls died. They shared fentanyl. 4 girls died. They weren't drug addicts. They weren't even partiers. They were curious teenagers, and they got a hold of this. Why would a drug dealer or a cartel want to sell drugs that kill their customers? That's not good business. You do it. It's not good business if you're a drug cartel. It's great business if you're an army. If your goal is to kill your enemy, then that's why you would do it. So no, they don't have freaking due process, everybody. Get over yourselves. This is a war. It's a war on our shores and outside of our shores. And Donald Trump seems to be one of the few men in this country who understand that. Luckily, he has staffed his cabinet with people who get it too. You all need to get it. We all need to get it out here. And Mamdani is part of that war. And Islam is part of that war. And we've been talking about this, and I'm going to continue to talk about it, but it makes me nervous to talk about it. I'm not going to lie. Because they're crazy. The ideology is not compatible with life in America. What's happening in Dearborn should be really concerning to everybody. It's happening kind of quietly right now and has been for many years, but it should be concerning. And I don't know what you do. Well, I have an idea, and I think I've talked about it before, but I don't think there's much you can do policy-wise. We have a constitution. You have freedom of religion here, and you don't want to limit that. You don't want to limit human rights just because, this is a threat. I get that. And I don't want to do that. There's a part of me that's like, well, gee, wouldn't that be nice? But no, because what goes around comes around. I get that. We've got the Constitution, thankfully, to work within. But I do think that it what will have to happen, and I think what is happening right now is revival. This is a spiritual issue. This is actually not going to be a policy issue. We can deal with it with immigration and tightening up our immigration laws, deporting the pro-Hamas, pro-Palestinian troublemakers. That'll help too. Cleaning up. Again, this is a holistic approach. Cleaning up the university system. These kids are getting trained at college. That's the training ground. You think Trump is just mad at these universities because they say bad things about him and teach bad things about him? No. See, that's again, this is you're 5 steps behind. You don't get what the man is doing. He's not that guy. You think he's some toxic bro. Go see my article on how Democrats just misread the toxic masculinity situation so poorly. People always say Trump's a hothead or he doesn't like to be he's not. He's not. Maybe he doesn't like to be talked poorly about, I guess. I don't either, but he's not a hothead. He's not hot-headed. He's not coming down on these universities because they're speaking poorly of him or they don't like him. He's coming down on them because he knows they're it's a military training ground, everyone. They're training their soldiers there. Yep, take it out. So you do that with policy, right? But there are some things that just can't be done with policy. And what's going to have to happen is a change of heart for America. It's going to have to be revival. And I think we saw the beginning of that after Charlie's death and the day of his memorial. And you saw Joe Rogan come out this week and say he's exploring his faith, right? He's been doing that for a while. He's been talking to Jordan Peterson, and Jordan's got a great series on um, the mythological or the mythology of the Bible. It's from a secular point of view, but it's very, very good, very valuable. Highly recommend listening to that series. So he's been thinking about it for a while, but after Charlie, gosh, that could just be a phrase in itself. There's before and there's after. And everybody I talk to has an after Charlie moment. I just was talking to my friend the other day and she said, I was this, but after Charlie. That's my son, my own son. I was thinking this way, but after Charlie. Lots of people have their after Charlie moment. And after Charlie, I think a lot of people are rethinking what's valuable, what's meaningful. And I'll just be blunt. I just think there was a move of the Holy Spirit across the country. I do. I see it in the churches. Churches are filling back up after COVID. Satan just thought he got us with that COVID. You thought you were so clever. COVID took out a lot of regular church attenders. I was one of them. I was displaced for a while also because I didn't want to go back to my church that closed during COVID. I thought that was a cowardly move. And it changed how I looked at our leadership and what they would be willing to stand up to in the future. So it displaced me for a while too, but people are coming back because you can't stop the Holy Spirit, can't stop a move of God. You can kill the messenger, but you'll never kill the message. So I think what's coming is revival. And what will happen is it will fill up the spaces that Islam is currently occupying. And so in some respects, in some areas, we won't have to drive out anybody. They just simply won't be comfortable, and it just will start to die on the vine, if you will. And we can go back to the time when we could welcome these people as sort of a diverse aspects of our communities, but not influential, right? How it used to be. I mean, everybody knew a Muslim. Everyone seen a mosque, or a lot of people had before 9/11. We knew these people were here, and a lot of them were folded into our communities with no problem. I think in a lot of respects, President Trump already is. I'm going to guess he's got some more specific plans that we may or may not ever hear about, but I don't think he is ignorant to what this threat is, and I don't think we should be either. Mamdani is that threat, and this is why I think this is ultimately going to work out for us, because he's going to make us, win or lose, and I think he's going to win. He's going to make us come face to face with this issue. He's going to do some really scary things in New York City. It's going to wake up a lot more people. And then Democrats are going to have to ask themselves, can we win outside of the cities? And I think the answer to that obviously is no. That's why we have this gerrymandering battle. But also, here's the other thing that's coming down the pike, and I think I'll loop this back around to what's going on in California, and why I do think we have a great opportunity to flip the governor's mansion next year. But the other thing to think about is that Trump knows that 2020 was stolen. I think he knows. I think he. Why do you think they worked so hard to keep that man out of there? Do you understand? Why do you think they tried to kill him? They know, and they know that now he knows. And now what has to happen is he has to let us know. And I don't know the challenges of that. I can only imagine, because you see when he came out with the big autism announcement and everyone lost their minds because it wasn't clear enough and everyone was like, Tylenol? He's talking about Tylenol? No, he wasn't talking about Tylenol. That was an announcement about vaccines. Flew totally under the radar because Americans could only focus their mind on the Tylenol, and then a certain segment could only focus on how that made Trump sound crazy. And when what he said was, we have a vaccine problem. So I say that to say, like, he could put out a video that had Nancy Pelosi stuffing, a fake ballot into a ballot box, and there would be people who would still question it. This is why not to mention Trump and God in the same breath. Separate thought here, but I'm a writer. I'm making these connections. This is why everybody, when your atheist friend says, well, why can't God just tell me he exists? Why can't he just come down and be like, hey, I'm God, and then I'll believe? No, you won't. There's nothing that will make you believe, because then that could happen. And then you'll tell yourself, well, that was a hologram, or must have been high on mushrooms, or did I really see that? Maybe that was my imagination. I really just had I hallucinated for a minute, or maybe it was some kind of alien technology. No, the answer will be no. So I get it. Like, I'm not sure what all of the challenges are to releasing the proof of 2020. Because it's not just about what's provable, but it's also about what we will believe as a population, what we can believe. So I have no idea how that goes, but I think that Trump knows. I know that Trump knows. This is why Gavin's causing all this problem. This is why Pritzker's talking about, civil disobedience. This is crazy in Illinois. That's crazy, right? This is crazy talk. But do you understand why they're so crazy? Because they know. They know that what they did was so deeply wrong, disturbing, and horrific that a lot of them should go to jail for the rest of their lives. And some may even need to be brought up on charges of treason. And that's very serious. This is very serious. And Trump knows it. So I don't think we've seen even close to the end of it, because I think what's going to happen here is we're going to dig into this. We're going to find out just how much cheating has been going on and for how damn long. And then the Democrats are going to be another 20 to 30 years out from ever holding power again. But we've still got some rocky times ahead. I think all of this is going to get revealed in the wash. Even on Prop 50 here in California, if we lose, and I think there's a good chance that it loses, because Newsom wouldn't have put it on the ballot if he didn't think it could win. There's a good chance it loses, but even if it loses, I don't think that's the end of the story. I think the Democrats have overplayed their hand here, even in California. And I can't tell you how it's going to bite them, but I have a feeling on this one. Bookmark this. I just think in the end, it's not going to work out. The question for me as a Californian is, how much am I going to have to suffer while it works out? It looks like it's going to be a lot more. But, I'm in it. I'm here. I'm in it for the long haul. Some people have taken off for greener pastures, and no judgment. I get it. I have no judgment for anyone at all who has picked up and left. I have friends who were in the battle up until, this last moment. And then we're like, I can't wait. I can't wait for 26 to see if it turns around. I can't. I'm done. And I got no judgment for those people. But my husband and I don't really have a choice. We're here. This is where we live. This is where God has us. The second God says it's time to get up and go, we will go. But there are no indications that God has those plans right now. And so this is where we live. This is what we do. This is who we are. So we're going to keep fighting here. I was going to talk about Kamala. Matter of fact, she was on the BBC I had this to play, but my sound is not working. It's just not looped in right for some reason. Here we go.
I I
Sorry
I
about
have
that. Let me play it. I had the wrong button push, you guys. Or
stories of your baby nieces, Amara and Leela. When are they going to see a woman in charge in the White House?
in their lifetime for sure.
Could it be you? Possibly. Have you made a decision yet?
No, I have not.
But you say in your book, I'm not done.
That is correct. I am not done. I have lived my entire career a life of service, and it's in my bones. And there are many ways to serve. I've not decided yet what I will do in the future beyond what I am doing right now.
But you've been very clear that it's a possibility you might run again to become president. And in my experience interviewing politicians, when someone says, I'm not done, it means they are thinking seriously about running. But when you look at the bookies' odds, they put you as an outsider, even behind Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. I mean, is that underestimating you?
I think there are all kinds of polls that will tell you a variety of things. I've never listened to polls. If I listened to polls, I would have not run for my first office or my second office, and I certainly wouldn't be sitting here in this interview.
oh wow. Um she said, I certainly wouldn't be sitting here in this interview if I listened to polls. She said, I certainly wouldn't be sitting here in this interview if I listened to polls. I wouldn't have run for my second office or my first office. I don't I don't think that's something to brag about, lady. Like you've never polled well and somehow you're still winning. How? That's sus, right? How does a lady like Kamala win when she polls so low? I can make so many jokes here, and I'm not going to. I'm not going to do it. Kamala knows exactly how she got to where she is, and it's not a secret here in California or anywhere else. But I want to say a couple things about that clip. Number one, is she keeps going overseas to give these interviews. Isn't it interesting? They do. Biden's first interview after being wheeled out of the White House, BBC. Kamala, first interview where she's giving hints about the future, BBC. Isn't that interesting how these people go to the UK? We're the birthplace of media here in America. We have so much media and so much friendly media. Isn't there's Aren't there enough fawning people in American media to go, test those waters with? Isn't it interesting that they went to the BBC? Of course, the answer to that is no, there's not enough fawning media in America. They've lost everything. This is why Chuck Schumer screwed. This is why Hakeem Jeffries had to go ahead and endorse Mamdani. This is why Kathy Hochul's out there stumping for Mamdani. The old guard is dead. They don't know what to do. The way they used to do things, it's dead. They they don't know what to do. And so Kamala being out there, I lost my train of thought, but don't worry, I'm gonna pick it back up. I'm a pro. But Kamala, I'm a 51-year-old pro in the heat of brain fog. Anyways, but Kamala is out there making noise. She's going on to BBC because she can't trust this media to give her the fair shake because they blew it. And that's how bad, historically bad, that the Biden campaign was, that the Biden White House was, that even their sycophants in the media, the stenographers in the media can't stand them anymore because they think Kamala and Joe lost the White House for them. They think this is all their fault. That's why Karine Jean-Pierre is out there. Oh, it's just delicious watching her interviews. What can she do? This is all she has. She's not, I don't even want to say she's not very smart. She's not smart at all. She's not smart. She is a very dumb person. And when you listen to her, you realize she is not smart at all. I'm not even sure she can really read that well. And so all she has is the press, and hopefully she can get a job as an analyst somewhere. That's what you do after your press secretary career, right? She's got to go on the American media tour. And they hate her. They hate her. They're mad at her too because they feel like she was part of the problem. Of course, That it's not her, and it's not Biden, it's not Kamala, it's them. You guys did it. It's your fault. But the media, they're just like every other Democrat. They can't take accountability. It's their fault, right? They gave us all the glowing reports about Kamala, Joe, KJP. They were the ones who refused to cover the real stories. They were the ones who told us the Hunter Biden laptop wasn't real. They were the ones that censored conservatives. They were the ones that refused to investigate the stories of scandal, of corruption. They were the ones that covered up Joe Biden. I mean, imagine the audacity of Joe. Excuse me. Oh my gosh, I'm having a brain fart. Imagine the audacity of Jake Tapper. I want to call him Clapper, and I was trying to make my brain not say Clapper. The audacity of Jake Tapper to write a book about the post-election, how he broke the story. The story is breaking about Biden's mental status. No. Yeah, we broke the story in 2019 when he was running from his basement. The audacity of these people, but they can't take accountability. So the media, of course, can't take accountability that they were not doing their jobs. You probably could have been rid of Biden a lot earlier if you had done even a tiny bit of your job. So of course it's their fault, but they're going to blame Obama. They're going to blame Biden. They're going to blame KJP, and they blame Kamala. So she can't go and test the waters on American media. She's got to go to the BBC, and it's all very polite there, isn't it? Even though, kudos to that interview, she did not let Kamala off the hook. She said, "You're polling lower than The Rock, Dwayne Johnson." And is there anyone faker than The Rock, Dwayne Johnson? I mean, that's like a fake manufactured celebrity media personality if I ever saw one. Everything about him is manufactured. And she's polling lower than he is. So here's what I want to say. I want to say, go Kamala, go. I think you should run again. I think you should run for the president again, particularly if Gavin Newsom runs. I want to see a Gavin and Kamala head to head. Those guys aren't friends. I don't know totally why, but I'm going to guess they probably slept together at some point. That's what I think. That's just total gossip right there. That is not, I am not making a claim of knowledge of anything. It's completely, uh, that is completely 1000% unauthenticated gossip. But I think, yeah, I think they probably had some kind of situationship going on, and they are not friends now. So I'm going to be here for every second of it. But Kamala has the same problem that Gavin has, and I think it's going to be really entertaining to watch them face off against each other if we get that. The problem is this: they're both California politicians. They've both been born and bred in California politics, born as politicians. And in this state, if you're a Democrat, you don't get asked hard questions. You don't have difficult situations. You don't have a difficult race or difficult path. You're basically appointed. You don't have to worry about money or answering to the voters. You're never held accountable. And there's no press here right now to challenge you. And there's some, but those people don't get the invitations, right? Those people don't get Michael Schellenberg is not going to get invited to, or Matt Taibbi is not going to get invited to a Gavin Newsom press conference, right? So they never have any challenges is what I'm saying. They're weak. That's what I'm saying. They're weak. They're empty vessels. They're empty suits. That's why Kamala always sounds so strange. She has those vague word salads, and same with Gavin Newsom. They're cut from the same cloth. They were trained in the same battleground. Don't even call it battleground. They were trained on the same vineyard. So they don't have any skills, and they don't have the ability they don't have any thoughts of their own. They don't have any ideas of their own. They don't have any intellectual thought. Do you understand what I mean? Like whatever your inner life is, where you think about things, you analyze things. Oh, I saw this article the other day, or I saw this situation on TV, and it makes me think about the time I did that X, Y, or Z. They don't have those thoughts. I know it's hard to believe. Whether they were just not born with them at all, I don't know. But I think you're just trained to hollow yourself out. I wrote I'm gonna pump my own article. I wrote a great piece on Kamala's campaign way back when, back in the old days when she was running, and it was when she was getting criticized for changing her accent so much. And I talked about what I think that is, and it's not just fakery. It's a type of fakery, but she's not doing it on purpose. And there's a clip running around out there right now with Gavin Newsom, and he's on a podcast talking about, oh, when he was a kid, and I was eating Wonder Bread, and he takes on this lilt in his voice. It's supposed to be, I suppose, supposed to be a little more authentic, but like, yeah, I had the Wonder Bread and this and that and the Wonder Bread and the Kraft mac and cheese and just playing ball after school. I was on my own. Kevin's, he's a rich, privileged kid, like connected kid. He's none of those things, but he said it so easily, like it was true. How? He's hollow. He's not a real person. He's a hollow person inside. So you can fill it with anything he needs at any moment. Kamala's the same way. Go read that article. You'll have to be a paying subscriber to see it because it's in the archives. But they're hollow people. And all they have is hollow platitudes to offer. And guess what? The Democratic base is not in the mood for hollowness anymore. They don't like it. Look at what they did to Obama. Obama, the Messiah, the savior. Man, I thought there was no way Obama was ever going to be anything but the elite of the elite in that party. Him and Gavin Newsom on a podcast the other day couldn't even pull in 264 viewers. I'm going to end up with more views on this podcast, and nobody watches this podcast on YouTube. Nobody. I'm going to end up with more views than that. And I'm nobody. Obama, I've never seen a power couple in the Democrat Party fall so quickly, crash so quickly. The Obamas are even more disliked than the Clintons. The Clintons have still managed, they got it right because they were pros. The Obamas, they weren't pros. They didn't know how to do it. They're too dumb. The Clintons knew how to do it, to arrange for themselves to be in a position of power and influence behind the scenes for decades and decades. They have set up their own institution to do that. And so they still have power and clout, even if they don't have popularity. And the Obamas don't have that. They did during the Biden years. During the Biden years, I know a lot of people. I'm a loner on this one. I don't think a lot of people agree with me. A lot of people will say that that's Obama behind the strings. That he's the ideologue. He's the power player pulling the strings. And I disagree. I don't think it's him. I think it's whoever runs him. Right. I don't think Obama's clever enough. I've just never believed that. I don't think that I think he's an empty vessel. I don't think he plans anything. There's someone behind him that does it, but whatever. He's the avatar, right? So essentially it's Obama, but wouldn't it be a gift for Kamala to run? It'd be good for business. Be good for me. I mean, just plenty of stuff to talk about. I say run, Kamala. I'm your biggest supporter. I'm never going to give you any of my money, but I'll devote plenty of time to talking about you. Let's show America who California is. Let's show America who they'll get. Let's show America what life could be like if they voted for a Californian. Let's go for it. All right, I'm going to go too. I'm packing up because I'm going to Iowa tomorrow to see my friend and spend Halloween in the cornfields of one of our nation's great states. So in the meantime, make sure that you subscribe on X. Sometimes I stream this to X when I'm recording. I never know where it's going because I'm a one-woman show and I don't really care. You can find this though on Spotify or iTunes, Just Kira Davis. You can search Just Kira Davis on Substack, subscribe there, and you can get my bonus series, Unsolicited Advice. This week, I advise a young woman who wants to know how she should feel about a threesome invitation from her best friend. So I've got some advice on that and a couple of other things. Follow me on X at Real Kira Davis, on Instagram at Just Kira Davis. And don't forget to subscribe to my Christmas Land podcast, Journey to Christmas Land with Amelia Hamilton. You can find that on X, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, all the places. And I'll see you next time. Until then, I'm just Kira Davis, and I'm just talking about the things that make America great. Thanks.